Hello, I'm Ed Wolfe, Kitsap County Commissioner from Central Kitsap. I'd like to invite you to my next Commissioner's Corner, where we're going to talk about volunteering in Kitsap County. Volunteering, over 3,500 volunteers in Kitsap County. They do amazing things. You'll be meeting with some of these volunteers, including Tex Lewis, who started the Clear Creek Trail. He's one of the volunteers we're going to be meeting and talking to. So please join me for my next Kitsap County Commissioner's Corner. Welcome back. I once again am Ed Wolfe, CK Commissioner. Happy to have you back for this special segment. I wanted to do this for a long time on volunteers in our community and volunteer programs. Very excited today to have with me Rich Daniels. Rich Daniels will talk in just a minute about and I'm going to read this because it's a little long, but it's the Mental Health, Chemical Dependency, Therapeutic Drug Court, Citizens Advisory Committee. So I don't have to say that again. This is the Mental Health Court, Mental Health Tax Advisory Committee. So Rich, welcome to Commissioner's Corner.
Well, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Quite a few questions that I know the public is interested in. And your advisory group recommends to the three boards of commissioners funding to over 1,000, I think, 1,000 people within Kitsap County. Is that correct?
Correct.
And last year, we with this program, we trained over 1,000 teachers and parents. We trained law enforcement officials in how to better interface, interact with the mental health population. Is that correct?
Well, correct. Yeah, we have a number of programs that are hitting a lot of people.
Yeah, and you're going to talk about those. As one commissioner, I would not try and speak for Commissioner Gelder or Garrido, but I know we all agree this is a very, very popular and a program that is working for the entire community, and we're quite pleased with that. So let me ask you a few questions. What is your role as chairman of the Mental Health Citizens Advisory Committee? What do you do?
Well, as this year's chairperson, my role is related to keep the group together.
Mm-hmm.
We have 11 commissioners.
Right.
Every year we release a request for proposals
Mm-hmm.
where we have identified a number of needs in the community,
Mm-hmm.
and we seek vendors' help in meeting those needs.
Mm-hmm.
Every year we get a number.
Sounds like a full-time job.
Well, it's
a volunteer job.
It's a volunteer job, and it certainly has its rewards.
Yeah.
But every year we get a number of proposals. We look through them. We try to identify the ones that have the best value
Mm-hmm.
for the residents of Kitsap County
Mm-hmm.
and the best employment of the tax dollars.
Okay.
We vet through those, and then we make a recommendation to the board as to which ones we think are deserving of funding.
Mm-hmm. The Board of Commissioners. Are there specific projects that you can think of from 2017 or even ones that are being reviewed for 2018 you could share with the public at home?
Sure, there are quite a few. One I want to hit is the Therapeutic Drug Court. And in the way a court normally works, if somebody offends, they break the law, they come to the judge, they're found guilty or not guilty, and if they're guilty, they're given a sanction, which is supposed to correct their behavior. But when you have somebody who's a long-term drug user, that model doesn't work so good. And if you can address some of the effects of the drug usage along with the sanction effect of the court, you're much, much more likely to change the behavior. That's expensive. It requires the court to do things the traditional court won't do. We fund those. There's an awful lot of data that shows that works. Makes the court more effective, makes the justice system more effective.
So Rich, just, if I can interrupt for a second, when you talk about therapeutic courts, there's a drug court, there's a veteran court, and I actually am a volunteer in the Veterans Court. There's a behavioral court, am I missing?
And the juvenile court.
Juvenile court. So these are all part of the program that the volunteers with the Mental Health Advisory Committee work on and make recommendations.
We do.
Yeah, not just the courts.
Another program that I like to highlight is the CIT team with our various law enforcement agencies. Traditionally,
you need to tell us what CI.
Crisis Intervention Training.
Okay, thank you.
And traditionally, police officers are trained to address crime. They're not really trained to address people who are having behavioral crises. And we've seen each jurisdiction within the county has had some tragic event involving law enforcement and a person in
Yeah.
crisis. The state only mandates very, very minimal training. I think it's 2 hours for newly hired police officers. We provide funding for 24 hours of very intensive training and continuing support
Yeah.
to try and equip our police officers and deputy sheriffs
Yeah.
with the skills they need, not to enforce law in a crisis situation, but to deal with the underlying crisis and get people to help.
Let me ask this. Last year, I think one of the metrics that I remember preparing for this, we trained through the advisory council and the commissioner's decision or committee, we trained 250 police officers last year.
Correct.
Or law enforcement officers
Law
last year.
enforcement
What does that
officers.
mean?
Well, that means everyone, at this point, I think we have hit nearly every commissioned officer in the county to get them the basic level of training. Now, again, it's a type of training that's perishable. So you need to train the officer and then every year give some continuing training.
Okay.
And that's what we're doing now.
Thank you. And what does the committee look at in terms of prioritizing for projects? And how many did you bring last year to the Board of Commissioners?
We're looking for a number of things. Last year, I think we bought 17 proposals in total. We recommended funding for a little more than 40% of the requests that we got.
Okay. Getting the note that I need to move on here. Very briefly, well, first of all, let me thank you, so I don't forget that. Thank you for your services, and the members of the advisory committee. Just couldn't do it without you guys. For more information, go to kitsapgov.com to find out more about the Mental Health Committee, and go to the Human Services drop down, and you can find out all you need to know about this particular volunteer organization. I'm going to take a short break and be right back for more on the volunteers and the projects and the organizations of Kitsap County. Rich, thank you.
And thank you.
Yeah. Welcome back to Commissioner's Corner. Once again, I'm still Ed Wolfe, and I pointed out earlier, I'll repeat again, for those of you just joining us, this is my 14th Commissioner Corner in the last 4 years. I'm very proud to be here and proud to have done this for the last 4 years. This segment today on volunteerism and the programs in our volunteer in the county, we're going to talk today to Brandon Myers, Deputy Sheriff Brandon Myers, who runs the cadet program. And let me introduce you to the public.
Well,
Deputy
thanks, sir.
Sheriff, to the public, this is Brandon Myers, and you are a Deputy Sheriff for how long?
I have been a full-time deputy sheriff now for about 11 years. I started my law enforcement career actually as an Explorer cadet here in Kitsap County back in 2003.
Okay. And probably the public doesn't know this, but I understand on a very serious note that you're an international star. And by that I mean, with all sincerity, that last year the International Police Captains Association around the world named you as one of the top 40 under 20, under 40.
40 under 40, that's correct, yeah.
So you're a star in our community.
Apparently so, look at that.
What was that all about? What was that all about?
What it was is the ICP, which is the International Association of Police Chiefs.
Right.
It's a worldwide organization. They started a program, I think it was about 2 years ago, where they go around the world and they try to find 40 people under the age of 40 that are making positive differences in their community or demonstrating some sort of leadership attribution. So.
And you're a star in our community in that regard. Thank you very much, Deputy. Let's talk about the cadet program. We're talking this session of Commissioner Corner. We're talking about the volunteers, the 4,000 volunteers in our community, what they do in our community. Obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously. Are you volunteering your time with the cadet program?
So a lot of the time that us advisors do, we what's called use comp time for that. So we don't get paid overtime money, but we basically work hour for hour.
Extra work.
Extra work, absolutely.
Tell us about the cadet program.
So the cadet program is a great program. It's for kids that are 16 to 21 that kind of have an interest in law enforcement, or kids that just kind of want to see what it's about. So our program offers weekly meetings in which we tell them about aspects of law enforcement. They get to see the training courses we go through. They also have opportunities to participate in statewide competitions and state academies that we host twice a year. And they also get an opportunity to do ride-alongs with deputy sheriffs. So that's a lot of fun for the kids.
And I've done a ride-along with you too.
And you're still here.
On another point, this is an opportunity, a very important point. This is an opportunity for the youth in Kitsap County to find a profession if they want and maybe stay in the county. Is that
Absolutely.
correct? Is that happening?
It actually does. We actually have a number of deputies that work with us right now that were cadets here in Kitsap County. And we have a number that may not be with the sheriff's office,
Yeah,
but
okay.
are in Bainbridge or Bremerton, one of the other
Okay.
nearby agencies.
What's your role specifically with the cadet program?
So my role with the cadet program, I'm the coordinator for the program. So my job is
For the sheriff's office?
For the sheriff's office, correct. So my job is to coordinate our training, to coordinate our advisors and our recruitment and all that for our program.
Deputy, when you talk about training and mentorship, what does that mean with as in the context of the cadets?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the nice things is some kids get into the program and have a great time, but then go, you know what, law enforcement really isn't for me. But we have so many of them that come back and say, although law enforcement wasn't for me, I learned so much about leadership, about stewardship to our community, and aspects that really help them in the professional jobs. We had a kid come back that works at Microsoft now that said, I learned skills as a cadet that have helped me in my Microsoft career. So it's pretty cool to see that side of it too for kids that aren't really interested in law enforcement.
How many kids last year?
We had about 25 to 30 that go through the program. We ebb and flow as kids, a lot of kids go off to college. A lot of them join the military and go off into the military. We had 2 kids this last year that actually joined the armed forces, so that was really great to see that. And then a lot that go to college. So we're constantly recruiting. We go out and to the schools and let them know about the program and try to get kids that way, and also through other organizations around the community and let them know that we're there.
Deputy, why is this important? Clearly, just from your discussion, this is an important project for you. Why is it important to you?
For me personally, like I said, I started my career in law enforcement as an Explorer cadet. I quite honestly never thought I was going to get into this profession. It wasn't something that I really thought of indefinitely. When I got into the program though, it was such a fantastic experience for me. It really helped me figure out what I wanted to do and how I wanted to go with that. So for me, it's about not only giving back to the program, but there's another side of it too, that oftentimes in law enforcement we see the bad parts all the time. So for me personally, it's nice to be involved in a positive part of that in my job and help mentor kids and see that aspect of it.
You have passion for it?
I do, absolutely.
Yeah, pretty clear you do. If the public wanted to find out more about the cadet program within the Kitsap County Sheriff's Office, where would they go?
You can go to our website, which is www.kitsapsheriff.com. On the bottom there's actually a link for the cadet program. That will have our application process on there. And you can also go to our Facebook page. We post some stuff on there now and again. Or they can
What's
also
the
send...
Facebook page?
The Facebook page is through the Sheriff's Office. So if you go to the Sheriff's Office main Facebook page, which is Kitsap County Sheriff's Office, the other way is to email me. My email is BL like Lincoln Myers, MYERS, and it's at co.kitsap.wa.us. So you can always send me an email and we can get you in touch with the program.
Okay. Anything else you want to add about the program?
It's fantastic. I absolutely love it. It's, if you have a child, a lot of times we get referrals from parents. So
What's the age limit again? Sorry.
16 to 21. So if you have a child that might spark an interest in that, send them our way. We'd be more than happy to get them plugged into the program.
Great. Deputy Myers, thank
Thanks,
you.
sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Stay with us, folks. We'll be back very shortly with the legendary Tex Lewis and the Clear Creek Trail. You won't want to miss this one. Welcome back to Commissioner's Corner. I'm Ed Wolfe, your Central Kitsap County Commissioner. This segment continues on volunteerism and programs in our community and the unbelievable volunteers we have in our community. And this is the last, well, second to the last taping on volunteerism in Kitsap County, and probably one of the more special interviews I'll have during my career at the county. By the way, this is my 14th Commissioner Corner, so I'm very happy to share that with the gentleman I'm going to introduce in just a minute. I'm going to talk about today someone who was a co-founder of the Clear Creek Trail Task Force, a longtime volunteer, has done as much for this community as anyone I've known since I've been here 20 years. So here, let me introduce to the public the man, the myth, the legend, Tex Lewis. Tex, nice to have you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Nice to have you, and we're today located at Liberty Shores Assisted Living in Paulsbo, and you asked me if you should take your hat off, and I said, no, that's your trademark, so we don't want you to do that. Pleasure to have you on my show, and I mean that very sincerely, and I'm sure that the audience will enjoy hearing from you and what you've done and how you've done this with the Clear Creek Trail and the task force, many people involved. I think you would agree with me that open space and parks are critical to the quality of life of many of us that moved here for that reason, and maybe you did that 25 years ago too. We've got about 10,000 acres of open space in Kitsap County now, close to 10,000 acres. And I'll say with that acreage, volunteers are critically essential in Kitsap County to do what we do with our parks, to do what we do with our streams and our stream stewards. They play a critical role in filling what's becoming less and less tax money, or I should say grants coming in from the state and the federal government to do anything we want to do in the county. We're pretty much riding on our own and without federal money. So in parks, I can say that last year we had about $500,000. It translated into about $500,000 of times served services by our volunteers in Kitsap County. Wow. We had over 3,200, I believe, volunteers in Kitsap County last year in streams, for our veterans, for our Department of Emergency Management, for the Sheriff's Office. And that $500,000 of in-kind investment from our volunteers, that doesn't even count the military. And the hours and hours and hours that many of the commands, many of the ships regularly contribute to Kitsap County. So let's get back to you. This is about you today. Talk to me about 25-year anniversary today, or this year, for the beginning of the Clear Creek Trail. You were a co-founder. We've talked about that before. You've also described yourself, when I asked you earlier, why do you do what you do? And you said you're a selfish volunteer. Yes. Can we lead off with, what do you mean by selfish volunteer?
Well, I found out that being out with energetic people who are committed to bettering their community is a lot of fun, and it's very rewarding. So I never felt I was giving. I always felt I was taking when I was volunteering.
Oh, that's why you're selfish.
Yes.
Because you were taking.
Yeah, I was taking.
But you have certainly enriched the quality of life of so many people in this county by your selfish volunteerism.
Right.
And we thank you for that. The whole community thanks you for that.
Well, the thing extended also to all the young people we work with. The trail was built by the youth of the community.
Tell me about that. How did you get the volunteers?
Well,
25 years ago.
When we formed it, when Paul Britton formed the task force, he brought in members of the various service organizations and the tribe and the school.
Like the Kiwanis, like the Rotary.
And the Lions Club, the tribe.
CK schools.
CK schools. So we had a broad community representation when we started, and had tentacles in a lot of organizations. And that proved to be fundamental to our success.
Was that a task force to go out and bring in these volunteers?
It was just a task force.
To bring in the volunteers?
We were a task force to do work. Okay. The volunteers just came.
Okay.
The nature of the organization is just very, the people just volunteered. But
But you mentioned also with the volunteers 25 years ago when you started this, not only were the tribes involved, and you said they were very much involved, but you also said that the Silverdale Chamber of Commerce was involved.
Yes, indeed.
Was it called the Silverdale Chamber of Commerce?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you were on the board, I think.
I was on the board, and Paul Britton had been the past president.
Okay,
so.
okay. And so you would have high school students out here on a regular basis with building the trail, helping build the trail?
We decided that we would lead off our work here on Earth Day. And I was fortunate enough to be introduced to Marie Crum, who was a teacher, a science teacher up in CK High School. And I said, you got any kids that would like to help?
Yeah.
Well, she came down with 100 kids.
Wow.
High school kids. And you talk about herding cats. I mean, they were all over the place. but within 5 minutes they were focused. And then they actually worked pretty hard, and they actually did all the building. And the neat thing is that our businesses supported that. Ace Paving, it was a maybe a supplier here at the time, was provided gratis all the materials for the trail.
There's a lot of in-kind donations.
Yes.
Sounds like. So, Tex, let me ask you before we run out of time. I consider you a legacy in this whole project of Clear Creek Trail, and I consider your beginning this with Mr. Britton was the beginning of people understanding they needed more in this area than just a shopping mall. And the last question I'll ask you, and I haven't thought of this, so it's not a prepared question. What would you do if you were able to increase or do more for the trail? Not you personally, but what would you like to see the trail in 5 or 10 years?
Well, I would like to see it sustained and maintained in a soft way so it's compatible with the critical areas in. And when you mentioned money was no object, money has never been an object on the trail. We never let money stand in our way. Anyway.
That's because you're a selfish volunteer.
Yeah, very much
and
so.
You're doing it
very
not
much so.
just for yourself, but for the entire community. Tex, I'll just say one more time, I think that your legacy will live on. You've done so much for this community to help the quality of life that we can go out here kayaking and walk around a trail in downtown part of Silverdale. And I thank you, and I know if the public could speak to you right now, they would thank you also.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you.
Stay tuned, folks. We'll be back very shortly with Judge Dalton, who is the Veterans Court, the drug court judge, and she'll talk about volunteers in drug court, volunteers in vet court, and I think you're going to enjoy that one. Stay tuned. Well, welcome back to Commissioner's Corner. I'm Ed Wolfe. I'm sitting here today in a courthouse that was built in the 30s with Judge Jeanette Dalton, who is the judge in many different courts, Veterans Court and Drug Court. And I'm happy to have you on my show today.
Thanks,
Judge
Ed.
Dalton.
Good to see you.
Thanks for being here. We know how important drug court is. We know how important Veterans Court is. I actually heard that Veterans Court was looking for volunteers a while back, and as you very well know, you just swore me in, became a volunteer to a Veterans Court mentee. In my job in that regard, and you know better than anyone here, is to just keep that person on track, keep that person not coming back to the court system, keep that person, make sure that person is doing his treatment the way he should,
Right.
and just giving advice to the extent that I'm able to do that. Keep them out of court. I'm going to ask you a few questions, but before, I just want the public to know that we have 37,000 veterans in Kitsap County. 37,000 veterans in Kitsap County. So let's talk a little bit about why this program, and today we're talking about Veterans Court therapeutic program, although you are also the drug court judge. Let's talk about why it's important to you as a judge, Superior Court judge, why Veterans Court is important to you, and what is Veterans Court?
Well, firstly, Veterans Court is an innovation that allows veterans of any military service to undergo a therapeutic court process. So in essence, as long as you're a veteran, you don't have to be honorably discharged. Any veteran can come into our court. It's an 18-month rigorous program.
And these are felons.
Correct. They're charged with felonies. We do pre-adjudication court, so they're under court supervision for up to or even further beyond 18 months. And we take that vet and figure out where or what is contributing to the criminal behaviors. And then we get them the services that they need, either drug and alcohol or mental health. Lots of PTSD from combat. for me personally, it's a labor of love. I was raised in the military.
Grew up on a base,
I
or not
grew
a base,
up
but
on many military bases.
yeah.
So I like to say that I'm genetically predisposed to the military. But that is important for any judge who sits in Veterans Court.
Yeah.
You know as well as anybody knows that vets have a tough time talking to non-vets. So.
And I've been in this courtroom we're located in today many times before as a lawyer, but watching you up there as a Superior Court judge in Veterans Court, you have passion for this job. Is that passion because of your background, very briefly, your military background with your family?
Well, both.
Both.
There's the awareness that you know, our collective communal response to folks who have PTSD or substance use disorder hasn't worked up until this particular type of innovation came along. And it does take a village. And by the way, you're the first commissioner, veteran, to be sworn in and taken the oath as a mentor.
And I'm very proud of that. And thank you for swearing me in. Tell the public at home, if you would, what is the major difference between traditional Superior Court and all of the issues that you face daily and a therapeutic court such as Veterans Court?
I would say that the traditional is simply adjudicating cases and sentencing defendants in felony cases at the behest of the prosecutor's office. Therapeutic court is actually one-on-one involvement with the vet in getting to know them and lifting them up and making sure that we have a team environment that is extremely supportive of the vet's endeavors.
Very good, very good. Can you tell us how many veterans are in Veterans Court right now? And I think we have 11 or 12 mentors.
We have 25 at last count, but they appear on different calendars. So 11 or 12 mentors, and some of them have 2 mentees.
Some of them do, yeah.
Right.
And sometimes I've noticed, or I certainly notice regularly, that on Veterans Court Day, you will be up presiding, and lockout in prison garb will come in, and you make a determination, or the crew makes a determination, your determination ultimately, whether they can be in Veterans Court.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. They have to have qualifying, they have to meet the eligibility standards by the prosecutor's office. They're the gatekeeper as far as the criminal charge. So I can't make that decision, the prosecutor does. And then beyond that is, can they access services?
I see I'm getting the hook from our producer. So I would just like to ask one last question. If people at home wanted to be involved in Veterans Court as a volunteer, how would they go about that?
I would recommend first you come here to courtroom 270 on a Friday morning at 9 o'clock and just observe a session. Then go to Rebecca Pirtle over there at the county to be screened as a volunteer.
It's been a fascinating, this is the 4th session that I've had on volunteers, and of course you are not volunteering, you're a Superior Court judge, but I'm tremendously impressed with the treatment team that sits here, tremendously impressed with the prosecutor that works here, but more importantly, I'm tremendously impressed with all of the mentors that sit out there in court and are here every week.
Every week.
With their mentees and dedicated individuals. So
tremendous, tremendous. It gives me goosebumps.
Thank you for joining us, Judge
Thank
Holton.
you.
Nice to see you again.
Thank you, you too.
I want to thank everyone for being here with us today and learning, I hope, quite a bit about what our amazing volunteers do in our county. Amazing volunteers. Service above self, without a question. And just as a reminder, in 2017, we had over 3,500 volunteers in Kitsap County, 3,500 volunteers. That equates to 150,000 hours, volunteer hours. And if I took that one step further, you would see that of the 150,000 hours, $5 million, it's translated into in-kind services of $5 million. So I hope you've learned a lot. If you'd like to learn more, please, about volunteering and what we do in the community, please go to kitsapgov.com, kitsapgov.com. Thank you for stopping by Commissioner's Corner. I'm Ed Wolfe, and I look forward to seeing you during my next Commissioner's Corner.